Hello, I'm Brenda and this is Write Your Story. In this video today, I want to share with you my hybrid publishing journey. In my previous video, I did a Publishing 101 where I gave an overview on options you could consider as a memoir writer and particularly a first-time author. In that video, I touched very briefly on hybrid publishing as an option and said I would do a second video to explain my hybrid publishing journey and to go into it in more detail. So this is that video. Quick overview on hybrid publishing before we go further. Hybrid publishing really straddles between self-publishing and traditional publishing. It works a lot like traditional publishing in that hybrid publishers are more selective about the manuscripts that they receive. They will usually have a vetting process in order to find manuscripts that they feel will be worthy of their emblem. And that is something that hybrid publishers do. Like traditional publishers, they will put their mark on your book to say that they have helped you to publish your book. It does give more credibility to your book. And many hybrid publishers will also have their own distribution channels. And so that is an added benefit of using a hybrid publisher, is that you tap into their distribution channels. And so having their emblem on your book, making use of their distribution channels, works a lot more like a traditional publisher than if you were to simply self-publish. They also pay you royalties, and the royalties are more than you would receive from a traditional publisher. Most traditional publishers would pay you a 10% royalty, whereas with hybrid publishing, you're looking at 20%, at least I am with my hybrid publishing company, Word Alive Press. You're looking at 20% on actual books and 50% on ebooks. So it is a more favorable royalty system. So with that little overview in place, let's now look at why I chose hybrid publishing. I really fell into hybrid publishing by virtue of the fact that I first of all knew I didn't want to do traditional publishing. There were a few reasons for that. One of them is I knew I wanted to retain control over the content of my book. I didn't want a traditional publisher pulling my manuscript apart, perhaps saying, well, you can't say this, you can't say that, we need to change this and we need to change that. My memoir is a very personal, heartfelt memoir about my mother and my father and my journey, and I wanted it to stay in a way that I felt was credible to how I experienced it and what I wanted to say about my life with my parents and my relationship with them. And even though I discussed difficult things in the book, it really was an act of love. And so I wanted to retain that control over my book. As a first-time author, I also realized that the odds of me being accepted and published were really quite slim, particularly because I am unknown, because my topic and my subject is a grief memoir. And I thought, how many people do they think are really going to be knocking on the door to read my memoir about this topic? It's a tough topic that most people shy away from. Plus, it's a faith memoir, makes it even a more niche market. It's not a widespread topic that I think appeals to the masses. It's really a niche market. So with all of that in mind, I thought, I don't think traditional publishing is for me. There are just too many hurdles. I want to retain control. I want copyright of my book. And that really excluded traditional publishing straight off the bat. Self-publishing then became the option, and I looked into it, but there was such a steep learning curve. Now, I'm pretty good at teaching myself new things. I teach myself a lot of new things. But the more I looked at self-publishing, the more I looked into it, I thought, you know what, it's a steep learning curve and I'm not sure I can pull this off. Because this is such a personal story, because it's a love language story for my parents, even though we talk about difficult things in our relationship and my heartache, I wanted to deal with it in a very loving, respectful way and have a quality product at the end of it. And I didn't believe that I, on my own, could actually deliver that. So in my editing process, as I got to the end of my editing process and I was working with a wonderful editor, I said to her, just as we got to the end of the process, now what? How do I publish this book? What am I going to do to get my book published? And she said to me, your book qualifies to be submitted to Word Alive Press's Women of Faith publishing contest. I looked into it and I thought, okay, this is the way I'm going to go. I'm going to submit to the publishing contest because, hey, if I win it, I will get a publishing contract. And that's a good place to start. Now, the publishing contest is one of the ways in which a hybrid publishing company will source manuscripts and vet them. It gives them the opportunity to receive manuscripts and select ones they feel are really worthy of printing and publishing. So I submitted my manuscript. Unfortunately, I didn't win the publishing contract, but I was shortlisted. And so being shortlisted, this made me eligible to actually receive a discount on the publishing contract. And looking at those options, I thought, this is the way I want to go. I want to work with a company where my manuscript fits with who they are, that they will help me to develop a really good manuscript and help me through the process, do all the hard work for me, and tap into their distributorship channel. So Word Alive Press and hybrid publishing became a really good fit for me. I really like the fact that with Word Alive Press and in hybrid publishing, I got to work with professionals. I got to tap into their team and work with the professionals to pull my book together. And that I had a say. An example of that is actually with my book cover. The very first book cover that was submitted for my approval didn't actually work for me. I liked the font, I liked the way the title was structured on the book cover, but I really didn't like the picture and I didn't like the black and white. This is a really tough topic to discuss. It's not one that most people will pick up unless they're really wanting to work through grief, or they know more about me and my story and they want to know how I grappled with issues in my life. But for somebody just walking past, I didn't feel that this was a book they would pick up. It just seemed a little subdued, even a touch depressing. And I asked for a book cover that would be warmer. I wanted a book cover that would speak to the message of hope, not to the message of struggle and grief. And I wanted a book cover that would reflect that. And so I gave my project manager, because you get allocated a project manager, I gave her a brief about what I was looking for, that I wanted a book cover that had warmth and color to it. I liked the beach picture, but I wanted it to be one with movement, not static. I wanted perhaps a sunset or a sunrise. I wanted to speak of hope and movement and going forward in life, not standing still and looking depressed. So with that in mind, I gave her an indication, and then the next book cover that came for approval really hit the mark. I couldn't have asked for anything better. And I loved the fact that we could wrap it around to the back of the book. And so I felt really pleased and proud of my book and that I could participate in it. So that's something for you to consider too now when you're choosing and when the time comes for you to choose which way are you going to publish. These are things you could consider about what is the best option for you. Perhaps you also want to work with a company like Word Alive Press. Do take a look at the links below, go to their website and see if it is a good fit for you. They still run their publishing contests. It's now called the Brawn Awards, and it's a good way to go to see if your book is actually going to qualify and may even win a publishing contract. I have a link below too where Word Alive Press have very generously offered a discount through anybody using this code if you decide to work with them. They also offer a free editorial assessment of your manuscript. So that is something you can consider too, to see if your manuscript will actually make the grade or if there are some changes that you need to consider. And if you're starting out on your writing journey and you're looking for a mentorship program, they actually offer that too. So take a look at that link. I will also have other links below to see if there's another hybrid publishing company that will work better for you. I haven't worked with any of them. I've only worked with Word Alive Press so far. But these are other ones I think are credible that you could consider, who you could approach and see what they offer you. So that's my video on hybrid publishing and my hybrid publishing journey.